StraighTAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you're expecting to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us out there, especially yourself. It's going to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one philosophy, one mindset, one method, one codified process, a hardcover book, and you're listening to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, as I already told you, we are in volume 5 of the Counterintuitive Beliefs, and I don't think I need to explain this any further. You just heard volume 4 yesterday. You've heard volumes 1, 2, and 3. If you haven't, then you can go listen to them right now. But let's get right into it with volume 5 of the Counterintuitive Beliefs. Number 1, people do not fail because they give the wrong answers. The reason people fail in life is because they ask the wrong questions. If you are not getting the outcomes that you want right now in your life, it is not because you are bad at coming up with the solutions to problems. It's probably because you are addressing the wrong problem. It's not because you're failing to answer certain questions. You might think that you're lack success because you're failing to answer certain questions. You might think you have the answer and you're just not coming up with or you might think that you have the question, but you're coming up with the wrong answer. But the problem actually is, most of the time, you are asking the wrong question. You're coming up with the right answer to the wrong question, therefore you're not getting the outcome you want. Has any of you ever felt like you've been working really hard and doing all the right things and doing everything the way it's supposed to be done, quote unquote supposed to be done, but you're still not getting the outcome that you want? Yes? Does somebody feel like that right now? Yes, I know you did. Here's why. You're answering the wrong question. If you just changed the question you were asking yourself and you came up with the answer to that, then everything would start changing. I told you in episode number 1518, life is an open book test. All right, the whole point here, you don't need to come up with all the answers because the answers are already there. The answers already exist. The challenge is asking the right question. All right, these days, information, usually when people have questions, there's information can answer the question. Thing is, there's plenty of information out there. All the answers are already out there. Life is an open book test. Google is the open book. All right. Anybody here don't have a phone? Okay. Everybody got one. So all of you have access to the open book that can give you answers to all the questions. The thing is, what's the question? Because if you ask the wrong question, you can have all the answers and still not get anything for it. Episode number 1177. The topic was insight, which is the key to going from 1x to 10x. And what is insight about? Generally speaking, insight is about you asking the right question, not having the right answers, asking the right question. I'll tell you, 2 times in my life where I asked the right question and it became an inflection point in my life. The first one was about halfway through my professional basketball career. I found myself unemployed, without a job in basketball. And I asked myself, I didn't like the situation. And I asked myself, how can I combine the things that I already enjoy doing, which is playing basketball, and things that I'm actually good at, which is also basketball, but also being on the internet, being on computers. I was always into computers. And how can I combine those 2 things and make money from it? Now, mind you, at this time, we're talking 2008 through 2010-ish, around that time period. We were just starting to use the phrase social media. There was no such thing as an influencer. We were just starting to use the phrase content. You couldn't just make money for publishing content to the internet at that time period. It was just beginning at that time, and it wasn't a ton of money to be made at the time. It was not a normal thing. Nobody was doing it as a full-time living. If they were anomalies. So at the time that I asked this question, the answer, which may seem obvious to you now, if you're listening to this, depending on when you're listening to this, and you listen to this in the 2020s, it wasn't obvious then. But my answer to the question was, invest some more time in this. You got a website, put some more content up on that website. Be more consistent in your writing. It was also, you got some people who seem to be engaged with you when you put these basketball videos on YouTube. Make more. Why don't you just put out a video every day? And I started doing that. And at the same time, that's when the floodgates of what we now have as content marketing, influencer marketing, and all that stuff, then it started to happen around the same time that I asked myself that question. That was an inflection point. If I hadn't asked that question, then I wouldn't have gotten the result that I got. And there was another time, actually going back in the story, which was around when I was trying to get into professional basketball. And the question that I asked myself was, how can I take this situation of things not quite working the way that I want them to be working? Actually, that's not the one I want to tell. Going into actually it was around the same period, 2008 to 2010. This is the other insightful question that I asked. Players were asking me about two things. Number one, could you make a program for me to get better at basketball? And I said, how can I help these players who keep asking me to make programs for them? I can't help all of them. I can't make a program for every individual player. How can I serve all of them at the same time without running myself into the ground, at the same time servicing my career? I started selling my own products. Again, this is way before you had 1,000 people selling courses on how to make courses or selling programs on how to make programs. I started doing it, and that's how I became an entrepreneur. And the other question that was asked was, players were asking me about my mental approach to the game. They saw my consistency in putting these videos out every day, way before it was normal for some random nobody guy to be putting videos on the internet every day. And they started asking me just, what keeps you coming to the gym every day to work out? Or how do you have the same confidence in a game that you have in practice? Or you played Division III college basketball where you walked on, you got cut from your high school team 3 years in a row. Both of those true stories, by the way. How do you even have the idea to keep trying? Or how do you get started getting known on the internet? Because as I just told you, I had started to build a little bit of buzz because of these YouTube videos. So I started answering those questions. What were the answers to those questions? Well, you already know the answers because I say them every single day. Discipline kept me coming to the gym every day. Confidence, how I performed in front of an audience. Mental toughness, why I kept trying when things weren't working. Personal initiative, how I got started when it didn't seem like there was anything to start. And that became the entire work on your game philosophy. Insights. And where did these insights come from? Not because I'm just some genius, it's because I asked myself the right question. I was a genius in those moments when I asked the right question. It's not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right question. Because here's the thing. The players were asking me to make programs for them. The answer was no, because there was too many of them, and it wouldn't be enough time for me to make a program for every single player. But the question was, not from them, but the question that I asked myself was, how can I help these players in a way that makes efficient use of my time and makes sense for me and makes sense for them? They were asking a question that if I answered it the way they wanted me to answer it would have helped maybe one at a time, but it wouldn't have helped me much. But when I asked a different question, everything changed. And I got a book called Ask Yourself a Different Question. You can get that. Just go to workonyourgame.com. You can see the list of all of our books. I don't have to give you the link to each individual. Workonyourgame.com. We got a list of every book. Yeah, we got that domain name now, by the way. How can you fail in life is not because you are terrible at coming up with the answers. See, school teaches you. See, I don't remember who it was that said, I think it was the Freakonomics guys. You know who Freakonomics is. It's these two guys, Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner. And I don't even know how to explain what they do. It's not really about economics. It kind of is ostensibly, but it's not really. Freakonomics are these two guys, and they just have these conversations. They just look at things they kind of look at things in a different type of way than most people look at things. So it's kind of like a different version of me, but these are two older, middle-aged, white guys talking about these things, and not the same topics that I talk about, but talking about things. A lot of it is based on economics, based on how people spend money and the actions that people take and why people do the things they do, government policies and supply and demand and things like that. But very interesting stuff. I just read another Freakonomics book. I just finished it this week when I'm recording this. And one of the things that they talked about, and it might have been one of the guests in their book who said it, I don't remember, but it was in the Super Freakonomics book. I think it's called Think Like a Freak. And here's what the guy was saying. He was saying the reason why some people do really good in school but are not so successful at life is because in school you get rewarded for having all the answers. If you know all the answers, you succeed in school. You get straight A's in school is because you know what the questions are going to be, and then you're really good at knowing the answers. Whether that's memorizing the answers or you're good at storing formulas in your head for coming up with the answers, you're really good at supplying answers, you will succeed in school. I think everybody gets that, right? But in life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't tell you what all the questions are going to be. In life, the questions can be very random. In life, sometimes you just have a situation that's random and you have to figure out what question to ask. You can ask yourself 10 different questions, and if you don't get the one right question out of that, you're going to end up still mired in that situation. So in life, it's more about the questions, whereas in school, you get rewarded for the answers. And this is why this author was saying many people could do really good in school but only be average at life, because they're not good at coming up with questions. They only know how to do answers. They're only trained to come up with answers. Whereas people could be very average at school or even terrible at school, but then they do great at life simply because they're good at coming up with the right questions, but they weren't so keen on coming up with, these rote standard answers. I mean, in school, they give you standardized tests. Well, everybody's not standard. I mean, the people who succeed in school are standard individuals. People who are different, they don't do well in school. Why? Because the tests in school are called standardized. So if you're a non-standard person, of course you're going to fail at school. It just makes sense, right? Or you will struggle just to be okay. Anyway, that was point number 1. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, we are Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 5. Number 2. When people defend themselves by listing their credentials, it's usually because their argument or position lacks substance. I want to let that one sink in. I'll say it again. Whenever a person defends himself or herself by listing their credentials, i.e. they say something like, well, I've been a journalist for 10 years, or, I played professional sports for 5 years, or, I've done this thing, or I do this thing for a living, or this, you have heard these things. I don't need to give you too many more examples. You probably had it used against you. Maybe you have been guilty of doing this. Whenever someone defends their point or their position by saying, well, here's my credentials, here's what I've done, here's my background, here's my resume, here's my history, is because they don't have any more ammunition with which to defend their point. Many people falsely believe that listing their credibility gives their audience a reason why they should be listened to. You should listen to me because I did this. That is false. Even though it's cool to have a resume. Listen, I tell you all the time, you do need to build a resume. You do need to have a body of work. You need something with which you can sell yourself. That would get you in the room, that would get somebody's attention. But understand, when you're in the room, especially if you're in a room with a whole bunch of people who got the same credibility as you have, who cares about your credibility? Everybody has it. Oh, you were a star athlete in college? Okay, well, you're on the pros now. Everybody on the team was a star athlete in college. What else do you have? That's it? Oh, you're a pro athlete? Well, everybody in the room is a pro athlete. So why should we listen to you? Do you have anything else to add to the conversation? You're an author? Well, everybody in here is an author. So what else do you got? So you want to make sure, especially if you're in a room, people who all have the same credentials as you, because it doesn't matter that credential because everybody got it. But also, even if you have more credentials than everybody else in the room, you don't want that to be the reason that people listen to you. Because then it's like, all right, we're only listening to them because they have this status, but what are they actually doing right now? What do you have to offer? When your points have value, when you're making an argument or you're making a case for something, and it has real value and it has real, you can stand on it, you can back it up with some actual useful information, all right, you don't need to talk yourself up. You don't need to tell people that you've done this and that and you've written these and you played here and you know this person and these people know you and you sold this much and you made this much. You don't need to keep saying that. You can list it on your resume. You can have it in your bio. You don't even need to say it out loud. You just stand on the value that you're bringing to the table that day in that space in that moment. Because people will find out the rest. If you're any good, they'll go look you up. They'll say, damn, this person Dre, he's pretty good. I never heard of him before, never seen him before, but he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Let me look him up and see what he's doing. Oh, he did this. I don't have to tell you I did it. When you see the value that I'm giving on the spot in the moment that you come across me, then you'll be intrigued on your own. You'll go look it up yourself and you'll find out on your own. And it's much more impressive when people find out about you, something that's impressive, than when you got to go tell them. It's just human nature. If you got to go tell people all the great things that you've done, they may be impressed. They may be genuinely impressed, but it's more impressive when you don't say anything and then they find out on their own, like, damn, he did that, and they didn't even say anything about it. But if you got to have enough value to what you're bringing to the table in the moment that you don't need to do that. But I see all the time, especially social media is a place I see people doing this. Also hear this from people who are really, they have a propensity for straw man arguments. In other words, they are not good at seeing both sides of a situation. So if someone disagrees with their opinion, their immediate default defense is to start listing their credentials and what they've done and where they've been and who they know and this, that, and the third, just to defend themselves, when they're not even defending their point. They're actually defending their own ego, but it has no substance behind it. All right? When your points have value, you don't need to talk yourself up. Let the point stand on its own merit, and let whatever you want to talk up, your credentials, let them stand on their own merit. Let people find out about them on their own. If you're courageous enough to do so. If your points are solid enough, you don't have a problem. Point number 3. Today's topic, I'm giving you my Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 5. Victimhood is a poor long-term strategy. What do I mean by that? Meaning, you put yourself in a position, whether you're telling an audience, you're telling yourself, or you're telling anyone else, that someone did something towards you or didn't do something towards you or for you, whatever, that has put you in a disadvantageous position. And you are a victim of that other person's action or inaction, or negligence, or something malicious that they did towards you. Understand that that can win you temporary sympathy. Victims do get sympathy in the short term. People are like, damn, somebody did that to that person. That's fucked up. That's messed up what happened to that person. That should not have happened. It can get you temporary sympathy. It can also win you attention in the moment, especially these days, and even create some momentum for you, because you'll have people who sympathize with you, who have empathy, and they feel for the fact that you're in the situation that you're in. Maybe they have been in that situation also. Maybe they have undergone the same thing that you're undergoing in the moment as well, and they will give you their attention. They'll even help push some momentum in your direction. But the problem is this: that kind of energy doesn't last. There's only so much sympathy another person is going to have for you if the signs of power do not emerge, if you don't start empowering yourself. I've done episodes on how you can empower yourself. Episode number 540, how to use empowering language and talk. Episode 1651, how to empower others. And episode 1521, how we empower ourselves. Until you start empowering yourself, well, unless you start empowering yourself, rather, all right, you being a victim is not going to work for too long. All right, victimhood only works for, again, people can show you a little bit of sympathy for a little bit of time, but eventually anybody's going to get tired of it and say, damn, when are you going to grow up? When are you going to wake up? When are you going to stop using that as an excuse? How long are you going to keep talking about that thing that happened to you 2 years ago? Eventually, you got to move up and move on. And if you're not willing to do that, that sympathy will grow old pretty quick. All right, sympathy is kind of like milk. All right, it's only good for so long. You don't use it, you lose it. It goes rotten and it's bad, or like some fresh fruit or some flowers that you picked. All right, they don't last forever. All right, eventually you got to do something with it. All right, it goes against the laws of human nature to expect people to feel sympathy for you. Again, it can work as a short-term strategy, but remember that as a short-term strategy. You need to already be strategizing. All right, how the hell do I get up out of here and move on to something else? Point number 4. The topic here today is I'm giving you my Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 5. Number 4, everything that is, quote, free, close quote, is paid for by somebody. So there's no such thing as a free lunch. That's the first rule of economics. So anything that you get that is free, somebody's paying for it. Maybe you're not paying for it. Maybe you're not paying for it today, but it is being paid for, and it is being paid for by somebody. Maybe not today, but somebody will be making that payment. There's a payment for everything. And so the next time somebody offers you something for free, ask yourself what you're giving up to get it. For example, if you join somebody's email list and they say, hey, get on my email list to get free tips and tricks and my new articles, 2 articles a week, and my new strategy every month, or whatever it happens to be, what are you giving up to get all that stuff that they're offering you for free? Maybe a very good offer. Listen, I offer stuff for free all the time. Maybe a very good offer. What are you giving up? You are giving them, in exchange, you're giving them the permission to market to you, to reach out to you, to send you emails, to send you text messages, to let you know about their specials and about their programs, and send you their articles or whatever they have going on. It's called permission marketing. You are giving them permission. That's what you give, and they're going to give you whatever the freebie is, the free download, the free book, the free software, the free whatever it's going to be, tips and tricks, PDF cheat sheet, whatever it's going to be. Everything that is free is paid for by somebody. So anything that you think you got for free, maybe you did, maybe it was free to you, but it wasn't free to everybody. Public school technically is free. I'm not talking about college, like middle school, high school, elementary. Technically it's free, but it's actually not free because the taxpayers pay for it. All right, so when they take money out of your check, or you got to write a check to the government every year, every April, all right, you're paying for schools, or you're paying for cops, you're paying for whatever else you think is free in life, you're paying for it. There is nothing that is 100% free. So despise the free lunch. That's law 42 of 48 laws of power. Anything given to you for free, there is some string attached. All right, know what the string is before you pull on the string. You understand what I'm saying? All that being said, let's recap today's class, which is Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 5. Number 1, People do not fail because they have the wrong answers. They fail because they're asking the wrong questions. Life is an open book test. All the answers are already there. You don't need answers. What you need is the right question, so you know which answers to look for. Number two, when people defend themselves using their credentials, is usually because their argument or position lacks substance. People think credibility makes people want to listen to them. No, credibility just shows that there is no substance to your argument, so you're using your credibility as a shield. Point number three, victimhood is a poor long-term strategy. It can win temporary sympathy and attention, even gain some momentum for you, but it does not last long until unless you empower yourselves. Okay? It does not, do not presuppose that victims need to be, if you presuppose that as a victim, you need to be helped by people in power. Maybe they'll help you for a little while, but eventually they'll get tired of helping you and go back to tending to their own business. They don't have to help you. I mean, you ain't got no power. What are you going to do if they don't? Nothing, because you don't have any power. So eventually you need to empower yourself. That needs to be part of your long-term strategy. Number four, everything that you get for free has been paid for by somebody. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Freedom is not even free. If you feel like you are free to live as you want to live in the United States of America, for example, you are. That is true. But somebody's paying for it. You're paying for it with your tax dollars. You're paying for it with the strength of the military. You're paying for it with the reputation of America. It's paid for by all those things for you to be free and do what you want to do and say what you want to say and rail against the government and whatever it is you want to do. Somebody's paying for that freedom. All right, as soon as those payments stop coming in, that freedom goes away unless you want to pick up the tab and you want to start paying. So next time somebody offers you something for free, ask yourself what you need to give up in order to get it, because there is something you need to give up, whether you're giving it up now or you're giving it up later, but there is a payment that will be due. All that being said, if you haven't got your free copy of Mirror of Motivation yet, go to mirrorofmotivation.com, and I'll give you some straight up beliefs on top of the counterintuitives that will help you have your mind in the right place, get your confidence in the right place, and your motivation, your mindset where it needs to be, so you can be who you need to be as a person, do what you need to do to have what you want to have. Go to mirrorofmotivation.com. Let's get it. Work on your game. Dre all day.